What's going on, guys? Ted from Immersion here, and it's time for another Unearthed Arcana review. In a little bit of a surprise move yet again, whereas last week we got the Artificer as a standalone class, this week we got the Ranger and the Rogue combined in one. I had expressed my thoughts that we might not see as much of a Ranger update because the Ranger just got revised Ranger, which altered the entirety of the class, and how Rogues have a lot of different options already in Unearthed Arcana. They sort of went and did, I guess, the next best thing, which was to give us something of both, but combine them together. So, we got 2 new Rangers and 1 new Rogue. What did we get? The Horizon Walker Ranger. This is an older, I remember this as a prestige class from 3.5, as somebody that could kind of traverse the plains, and I think they could walk on walls back in the day, but that's not the case so much now. We have, which is an interesting, here are my dogs in the background, an interesting thing that both of the Ranger ones give you additional spells. So perhaps Wizards of the Coast is looking into this again as potential options for Rangers, something that adds to their already small spell list, the smallest spells known list in the game of only 12 across 5 levels if you hit to the, level 17 and above. So, what do you get? Protection from good and evil, alter self, protection from energy, banishment, and teleportation circle. Sort of planar feeling. The protection spells, solid spells to have, and alter self also good. Kind of Ranger-esque. I feel like you could add gills, allow you to swim, and things like that. And additionally, as a bonus action, choose one creature you can see within 30 feet of you. Until the end of this turn, your attacks against that creature ignore its damage resistances, and the next time you hit it on its turn, it takes an additional 1d6 force damage. So, the way I look at it is Planar Warrior feature makes Hunter's Mark, aside from the range, it makes Hunter's Mark almost pointless. It does an additional d6 damage, which is force damage. It is only against the singular creature, and it doesn't move, but it's a bonus action on your turn, and it doesn't use a spell slot. So every subsequent turn, you can be like, alright, I use it on that guy, okay, I kill that guy. Next turn, bonus action, I use it on this guy. Yes, you have to be within 30 feet, which is probably not where you want to be if you're a Ranger using a bow, but if you're a Ranger using melee weapons, this is a no-brainer for you, and your attacks ignore damage resistance, so goodbye having to worry about a magic weapon. You don't necessarily need one anymore, and at low levels, especially at 3 when you get this, being able to completely ignore something that has resistance to non-magical weapons is just out the window, plus free damage. So, I guess if you're going to do a 3-level dip into Ranger, this isn't a bad one to go if you wanted to go Planar Warrior because of this ability, as well as all of the other stuff you'll get for levels 1 and 2 of Ranger, the Favored Enemy, the Natural Explorer feature, the advantage on initiative, ignoring difficult terrain, that kind of stuff, and you'd get yourself protection from good and evil as a spell. In addition, as an action at level 3, you can detect the distance and direction to any planar portals within 1,000 feet of you. You also set into which plane of existence each portal leads to. However, if magic obscures any details, it doesn't reveal them. Once you use this feature, you have to finish a short or long rest, or you can spend a spell slot of 2nd level or higher to use it again. And it has information on where you can find planar travel in the Dungeon Master Guide. At 7, as a bonus action, on your turn, you can cast the Etherealness spell with this feature. The spell ends at the end of this current turn. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a short or long rest. I'm going to actually pull up Etherealness right now, because I believe Etherealness is a 3rd level spell. We don't want Bard, we want all classes, all spells. Etherealness. Actually, I'm sorry. Etherealness is a 7th level spell, and you can get it at level 7, but it does only last till the end of your current turn. But what does that do? During this time, you can move in any direction, up, down. If you move up or down, every foot of movement costs an extra foot, so that means moving up or down costs double movement. You can see and hear anything from the plane you originated on, but everything looks gray and you can't see more than 60 feet. You can only affect and be affected by other creatures on the ethereal plane. Creatures not on the ethereal plane can't perceive you and can't interact with you unless a special ability or magic allows them to do so. You ignore all objects and effects that aren't on the ethereal plane, allowing you to move through objects you perceive. If you occupy the same space as a creature, when the spell ends, you immediately shunt it into the nearest unoccupied space. You take force damage equal to twice the number of feet you moved. So, essentially, it's a way for you to get yourself out of a sticky situation. You bonus action etherealness. You can move your movement speed through objects, through enemies, and now all of a sudden you're somewhere else and they can't attack you. And it ends at the end of your turn. 11 is Distance Strike. This is a weird one, but again, a really good option. Sorts of puts you on par with a ranger, or a fighter rather. When you use the attack action, you can teleport up to 10 feet before each attack. Again, making this ability here, where you're within 30 feet of the enemy to do your additional damage and ignore their resistance. This pretty much allows you, because it's before each attack, not always, not if there's a giant mob of enemies, but for the most part, this is going to allow you to overcome the fact that you are at a disadvantage if you're within melee range of an enemy shooting with a ranged weapon. Teleport 10 feet away, shoot them. You must be able to see the destination of the teleportation. If you attack at least 2 different creatures with this action, you can make 1 additional attack with against a third creature. So, teleport 20 feet, shoot 2 different creatures, and you get a freebie third attack. That's pretty good. I mean, this is making it one of the better ranger options. Just ignoring the level 7 ability, half of the level 3, and the additional spells, this bonus action damage and this free as part of the attack. So it's not even it's not on a cooldown, and it's not an action or anything to do it. It just happens during the attack. Pretty solid. And at 15, as a reaction, when you take damage, you can have that damage against you. So it's basically you just get uncanny dodge. Granted, you get it at level 15 as opposed to level 5 when rogues get it. But still, not a bad call. And this is, I believe, uncanny dodge is one of the late level abilities that that a hunter ranger can get, so you can get that as well. And I should also point out, it says if you are using the revised ranger, you just add in at 5th level that you get an extra attack. So, yeah, and both of these subclasses have extra attack. Then there's the Primeval Guardian. This is sort of a tree, plantish style ranger. Your additional spells are Entangle, Enhance Ability, Conjure Animals, Giant Insect, and Insect Plague. At 3rd level, you can use a bonus action to basically become a tree. You become large size, unless you're already larger. Your movement speed becomes 5, unless it was less. Your reach increases by 5 feet, and you gain a number of temporary hit points on your turn equal to half of your ranger level. These dissipate when you leave your... which lasts until you... Oh, and this form, which I didn't realize before, you assume the Guardian form, which lasts until you end it as a bonus action or until you're incapacitated. So you could just theoretically stay in your Guardian form as long as you want, until you take a rest, essentially. When it ends, you lose any temporary hit points you have from it. Also, at 3, once during each of your turn, you can deal an additional 1d6 damage to 1 creature you hit with a weapon attack. So, you just get an extra d6 damage. Again, if you're fighting in melee, which I'm assuming you are going to be if you're dealing in this Guardian form, you could theoretically cast Hunter's Mark as a bonus action to deal an extra d6 damage, and then do another d6 from this on top of your weapon damage, and just start racking up damage. But this is a free, this extra d6, it's only 1 attack, but it's free. There's nothing to use to do that, and you only get your Guardian form... Oh, wait a minute. You gain the ability, as a bonus action, you assume this Guardian form, which lasts until you end it as a bonus action, or until you're incapacitated. It doesn't actually say when it recharges. That may get amended by the time you see this video, because it doesn't... The way it's worded now, it says you assume this until you end it as a bonus action, or until you're incapacitated. The way that's worded means you get it once. I know that's not what's meant by it, but that's how it's worded. If you don't end it as a bonus action or you're not incapacitated, you stay in it forever. But it doesn't say you can use this ability only once per short or long rest. You can use this ability 3 times per long rest. This ability recharges when you finish a long rest. It doesn't say. I'm going to assume it's probably long rest, but maybe, like I said, maybe it'll come out by the time you guys are actually watching this video. And then at 7th level, Ancient Fortitude, your hit point maximum increases by 2 per ranger level when you assume your guardian form. This increase lasts until you leave the form. Your hit point maximum then returns to normal, and your current hit points remain the same unless they have to come down to reach your hit point maximum. At 11, which again, this is a really solid just melee ranger, while you are in your guardian form, the ground within 30 feet of you is difficult terrain for your enemies, so it takes them even longer to get to you. And then at 15, when an ally starts their turn within 15 feet of your guardian form, they gain hit points equal to half your ranger level. So at this point, at 15, when you get this, but it only works if they have no more than half their hit points. So if they're under half HP, you're healing them for 7 or 8, maximum of 10 at level 20. So that is the Primeval Guardian. I think it's cool, the Primeval Guardian Ranger, because of some of the other, Ranger. You still have Ranger spells. It doesn't say that you can't speak. It just, you become a tree-like person, so you can still speak and cast your spells while in Guardian form. It's, I guess, the closest thing to, like, a Druid Ranger, if you want to think about it that way, except rather than turning into an animal, you're turning into a tree, but you have other capabilities on top of that. And there actually is nothing that says you can't shoot a bow. And this says, once during each of your turns, you can deal an additional d6 piercing damage to one creature you hit with a weapon attack. It says weapon, it doesn't say melee, so you could theoretically turn into a tree and then plank people with your bow from long range and just choose to do an additional d6 damage on one of those attacks. I feel like it's flavored to be melee just because of the way it's designed, but per rules as written here, you can do that with a bow. I mean, I would probably offer you an advantage on your stealth check if you're in a copse of trees and you turn into a tree and you're using that as your stealth. I feel like you probably blend in pretty well. Some of the best camouflage would to become a tree. And again, you can still do this and stay into this all day. So you turn into this when you wake up in the morning and you're like, I'm still a ranger, I'm still shooting with my bow. Oh, well, things are going to melee. Time to drop the bow and wail on people because I'm a giant, massive tree. And do things that way. I'll pull out my short swords or my rapier or whatever it is, and I'll fight you in melee in my tree form. So, I guess it's a little more... it's a tanky ranger, I guess, if you want to think about it that way. You get the boosted health, you get the temporary hit points. Because, again, additional 2 HP per ranger level. So that's at level 20, that's an additional 40 HP plus 10 temporary hit points. Plus difficult terrain around you. You just got a lot of things going for you to be a tank. And you have good spells, too. I mean, Conjure Animals is a good spell. Rangers get it anyway, but I think they get it anyway, but you have it. Entangle is a solid spell, and again, these mean you don't have to choose those as your chosen ranger spells. So... yeah, it's an interesting concept. I might try it if I have the opportunity to play. I mean, like I said, I think from a purely damage standpoint, some of the stuff from the Horizon Walker makes a lot more sense. The bonus action d6 damage, because this applies to all creatures you attack, whereas Piercing Thorns from the Primeval Guardian is only once during your turn. So, that's the Ranger. Let's move on to the Rogue, which is the Scout. We already saw the Scout come up once in the old Fighter kit Unearthed Arcana, where they tried to make it a fighter. I think it fits better as a rogue. I think it really fits best as a ranger, but skirmish damage was a thing that scouts used to have, and that is basically sneak attack. So, what do you get? At 3rd level, gain proficiency in nature and survival, and you basically get expertise in those 2 skills. So think about it this way. You're a rogue, you have expertise in 2 skills at level 1, you now just got expertise in nature and survival, and you're still going to get your other 2 expertise at level 6. So that's 6 skills with expertise right out the gate. And these give you nature and survival proficiency and expertise all in one. So that means you don't need to take nature and you don't need to take survival, because you're just going to get them for free at level 3. Additionally, as a skirmisher, you can move up to half your speed as a reaction when an enemy ends its turn within 5 feet of you. This movement does not provoke attacks of opportunity. That's kind of a skirmisher. It makes sense the way skirmish damage worked for old scouts, was if you moved 10 feet and then attacked, you did additional damage. At 9th level, you just get a 10-foot bonus to your walking speed. If you have a climbing or swimming speed, it increases as well. This couples back with Skirmisher, increasing your movement speed by 10 feet, meaning when you reaction move as half of your movement speed, you have an additional 5 feet, essentially, per that. At 13, you get Ambush Master. If any of your foes are surprised, you can use your bonus action on your turn in the first round of combat to grant each ally who you can see a +5 bonus to initiative that lasts until the combat ends. If the initiative bonus increases an ally's initiative above yours, the ally's initiative is instead equal to your initiative. Each of the allies also receives a 10-foot increase to movement speed until the end of the ally's next turn. So, this is again if you're getting the drop on your foe and they're surprised. This pushes all of your allies up to the top of the initiative, hopefully, so that they still get their surprise round, and then when it goes back around to them at the start of their next turn, they do get to go again before them. So you can really just essentially get 2 full turns to wail on the enemies before they get to attack on that second turn. And probably one of the coolest, most powerful abilities for any rogue, Sudden Strike. If you take the attack action on your turn, you can make 1 additional attack as a bonus action. So similar to like a dual wielder could. However, the attack can benefit from your sneak attack even if you've already used it this turn, but only if the target is the only one you make against the target this turn. Therefore, meaning you can't, with your short bow as a rogue, double sneak attack a singular target and just decimate them. But you can sneak attack 2 enemies, and this gives you another use for your bonus action, so this is a little bit better than, if you think about dual wielding, so you have 2 shots, you stab and you stab, right? This allows you to use something like a rapier, which uses dex and does more damage, and stab once as a singular action and deal sneak attack, and then stab somebody else with the same rapier, still doing full damage, still adding your proficiency bonus to the damage, and doing sneak attack to them. Ideally, because it's a scout, it makes more sense for it to be a short bow. But if you can get yourself and be something like a wood elf scout, you now are using a long bow rather than a short bow because you have the racial proficiency, and now you can sneak attack 2 creatures. I really like this a lot. And again, remind you that all of this is on the base rogue chassis, which gets you tons of stuff at every level. You've got expertise in 6 skills. You've got reliable talent at level 9, I think, or 11, where you treat anything less than a 9 on a skill check or an ability check as a 10. Crazy stuff. So, anyway, guys, that's the Ranger and the Rogue Unearthed Arcana for this week. That means next week we're going to be looking at Sorcerer. And then we should have Warlock and then Wizard, and we should be all caught up on all of the new Unearthed Arcana. We'll have to see. I'm curious what to see in a couple weeks from now. What we'll see. Are they going to pull anything crazy like they did with the Artificer? Are we going to get an updated Unearthed Arcana Mystic or Scion or some Psionic classes? Maybe they'll pull a ballpark or something out of left field and just grab us some crazy new class we weren't even expecting. Who knows? So, anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Will you be playing any of these? Do any of these sound interesting to you? I think it'd be interesting because, yet again, now that I'm thinking about this, a Primeval Guardian Circle of the Moon Druid could use 2 subsequent bonus actions to transform into an animal and then turn that animal into a guardian. So you could be a dire bear, theoretically, that now has all of these bonuses. And an additional d6. Or an elemental, even, really, if you're a high enough druid. Just double forms. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. So, and again, I think a 3-level dip into Planar Warrior is just solid for sheer damage output. So... Anyway, guys, let me know what you think. Will you be playing any of these? What are you looking forward to in the Sorcerer stuff next week? I anticipate a Fiend-born Sorcerer. Something like that, I think, would be what we're going to get. Fiend or an undead-themed Sorcerer. So, I guess we'll see. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.